Okay, good morning. I think we started. Now this is what I didn't like. I usually don't like getting started. Then it's when guys are trying to join in, but I'll give us the excuse. I'll excuse us for today, rather, because we're just getting started. But as I mentioned, make sure you fill in the the form that you've shared on the chat so that I have your email addresses so that I can be able to send you invites directly. So accept the invite and you will be able to join the classes quietly without requiring admission. All right. So what's this group? This is which group? Can you remind me where is the class rep? You can unmute your mic just because I have too many groups. I think sometimes I even get confused which one is which one.
BTech IT year 2.
BTech IT year two. Okay,
Yes.
that's awesome. Yeah, because I think I have another BTech year three just after this, and I also have those guys who are doing attachment IBL. So it's a bit crazy. So okay, BTech year two. So this is the three classes, or this is CN or CT. BTech which one?
IT.
BTech IT. All right. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I think we can get started. I'll be recording this, so what I'm going to do is I'll create a specific YouTube channel, not channel, but playlist for you. So all the videos we're going to do, all the class you're going to do in this, I'll record them as videos and upload them there for your reference in case you need to look into something that you might not have understood. So let me just share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, if it is visible, that's awesome. Um, I hear there's still some people who are trying to come in. I'll excuse us for today because we're just getting started. But of course, moving forward, that will not work. So, welcome to Visual Programming. So, here, what we're going to try and do is to show you how we can program an application where we see the user interface and the user can interact with the user interface, whereas we're performing some functionality in the background. There are so many ways you can create visual applications. You can create a desktop application similar to what you're seeing on my screen here, like this Transmark or this Paint. These are what we call desktop applications, which means they have to be installed into your system in order for you to be able to use them. So you see, you have different UI elements. You have tabs, you have menus, you have icons. And you can also have shortcut keys for doing certain things, and so forth and so forth. So this is what really visual programming is all about. So we're going to have different components on our screen. They could be menus, they could be icons, they could be graphics, they could be text, they could be even tables, or anything that a user can interact with in terms of seeing what kind of data is being represented. So, as I said, one of the tools you can use is one of the ways you can create a visual program is a desktop application similar to the paint that I have here. Now, it's also possible to create a mobile app. So the apps that we run on our mobiles are also visual representations. So you click on an icon, you have a place where you can type in your stuff, you can select items, and so forth and so forth. So that is another classic example of how what a visual application is. Then you also have web-based applications. These are things like forms. Like, for example, the Google form I just shared with you is an example of visual app. So if I open this form, where is the form? It's somewhere here. It's here. When I open this form, so you'll be able to see there are places where I have a text. I have where you can be able to type some details, then you submit. So I have buttons, I have text, I have icons, I have places where I can click. I can input text and so forth and so forth. So really, this is what visual programming is all about. Now, for demonstration purposes, I will use a web form. something similar to this to be able to demonstrate to us how visual programming works. So in short, what we're going to do is we are going to create uh, web forms using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript just to reinforce how exactly visual programming works. All right. So did you guys do HTML even a bit? I want to believe so. HTML? Class, you're silent. Have you done anything on HTML? I believe you have done some web development, some web programming somewhere, right? You did not.
No,
Oh,
we didn't.
Now that is going to be a very, very big problem because we really need that. Anyway, what we can do then, we can set up our environment, then start straight into HTML and see how that works out. Okay, because that is going to be our building block for the user interface, what the user is going to see. Then, of course, now we're going to go into CSS to style it. Of course, you're going to use something like Bootstrap also to make it easier to style. Because I also want to believe that going deep into CSS might be a bit of a challenge, and we're time constrained right now, so we can use Bootstrap to achieve the same. But then our main focus here will be JavaScript. JavaScript, what is actually going to make the application alive. But again, we need to have a visual representation of it, hence the visual programming part. Now, so for this to work out perfectly, we'll need to have certain tools installed in our system. So for us to do visual programming effectively as far as web apps are concerned, we're going to need some tools. So tools and environment. Tools and environment for. So first and foremost, sorry, I don't know why I'm so sloppy in spelling today. So first and foremost, I think I'll make this font bigger. Okay. So we have, first of all, the code editor. We need a code editor. In this case, there are too many. There are so many. You can use so many of them, but what I prefer is what we call Visual Studio Code. So that will be our code editor. We'll also need a browser to test our program. In this case, in my case, I prefer to use Chrome. We have Edge, we have Firefox, we have Safari. For those who are using a Mac, we have Phoenix. So there are quite a number of uh, browsers, but I prefer Chrome. I like the development tools that Chrome has. Someone is trying to get in. So for code editors, we have Atom. We also have there's one from Sublime Text. So there's quite a number that you can use, but Visual Studio Code is free and it has a lot of extension that you can be able to use. So I prefer that one because it's free and it's the most popular one right now. Then besides these tools, so these ones are basically the tools that you're going to need: a code editor and a browser for purposes of testing the application. Now, inside the code editor, we might also need extensions that will help us to write code easily. For example, there is an extension called uh, Live Server, which allows us to be able to just run our application without refreshing it over and over again. I'll demonstrate how that works out. We also have Emmet. Emmet allows us to be able to type code faster. So, for example, if I'm going to type HTML, you'll see that it's going to be a very difficult job to, type the entire HTML tags and so forth and so forth. So, Emmet will help me to type them much, much faster and fill them in the fastest I possibly could. So that's going to be also very important. So for our environment, these are the three things that we need to get up and running. The rest should be able to we should be able to carry on as we go by. So I'll just start us off straight into how we can install these tools. So to start off, let's start with the code editor. So for the code editor, open your browser window and go to Google, which is usually that's my homepage. But if that's not your homepage, you type here www.google.com. If you're using the Google Chrome, Google will be your home. If you're using Chrome, Google will be your default. Now here, just type Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is a Microsoft tool. Then just go to download. It should be able to detect your operating system. Somebody's trying to come in. This is what I didn't want. Just come into the class early enough so that we don't disturb others who have started. Okay. So just go to Visual Studio Code. Then by default, it should be able to detect your operating system. In my case, it's Windows and it's Windows 10 and 11. So from here, just pick what you want to install. I'll use a system installer here. This is much easier to download. So it's going to download it directly. You should see here. It's actually downloading it. It's not very huge, but it's not small either. But I want to believe 110 MBs is nowadays not such a large file. So just give it a bit of time to finish downloading. Then you can just run the setup and install it. Now the installation is a simple installation where you just click and you go next, 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 all the way to the end. And that's basically it. It is not complicated as such. So that is Visual Studio Code. I want to believe that most of us have a browser. Of course, that's how you're downloading the Visual Studio Code anyway. Otherwise, you won't be able to download Visual Studio Code if you didn't have a browser. But again, as I had mentioned, I prefer to use Chrome because of the development tools that it comes with. So you can use Chrome, but you can still use the others. You can use Edge, you can use Firefox, you can use Phoenix, you can use Safari. All of them have their own ways of helping you with their dev tools. They might not be as elaborate as Chrome, but they could still be able to get the work done. It's just a matter of preference here. Now, but in any case, you want to download Chrome, simply open another tab, go to Google and just type Chrome. Then you can go to download Chrome. It's as simple as that. Then just go ahead and download Chrome and install it, and you will be good to go. So far we have Chrome and we have our code editor, which is Visual Studio Code. So this one is already installed, and this one is also already installed for me. So the only thing I need are the extensions. Now the good thing with Visual Studio Code is that it comes with Emmet already installed in it. So you might not need to install Emmet on its own, because when you install Visual Studio, it will come with Emmet already inbuilt. And that's why I love it anyway. So probably the only other thing left for us to install is this extension called Live Server. So I'll show us how to install it so that now we can be able to see how to use these three things together. So once you install Visual Studio Code, simply come and open it up. So Visual Studio Code, you can see I already have it installed on my system here. Your interface may not look as mine because I've already used it for quite some time, and I probably had a lot of projects up and running. So let me just open a new window. Then I'll close these others. So probably you might end up with something plain like this. Okay, you might end up with something like this. Maybe the recent part might not have anything, but it should be more or less something like this. So once you have this, of course, I know I have a lot of extensions that have been enabled here. Maybe yours may not have this, but definitely you'll have the Explorer, you'll have the search, you'll have the debug, and you also have the extensions. So probably the others like Remote Explorer and Gemini and Cloud Code and even containers might not be there because I use these ones for other projects, but at least the first four you should be able to see. Actually, I think there's also Git that you'll be able to see, but that's not a problem. What's important is we have this navigation over here, which allows you to be able to do separate things. So what you're going to do is you'll come to install any extension, because we're interested in installing this live server extension. What you'll do is you'll come to extensions here. This is the marketplace for extensions. Then just look for the extension that you're looking for. In this particular case, I have something called, or rather I want something called live server. So look for live server, and you're going to install this first one, this live server, the first one that you're seeing over here, because there could be so many, but this is the one that is the official one. So I'll click on it. You can see it has more than 67.6 million installs. So that's actually quite a lot. So what you're going to do, I've already installed it. That's why you're seeing it's telling me uninstall. But in a case, because it's not installed, just click on install and it will automatically install it. The good thing is that it will not require the browser to restart. It will just come down here. But again, if it doesn't come down here, you can close Visual Studio Code, open it back, then you're going to see this go live icon at the bottom here. So when you have that, then it means that actually live server has installed correctly. So why that is important is because as we're typing our code, we also want to see how it comes about. So what's important for us is to see how things come about as we are developing our user interface without having to go back and forth. So that is how we set up the environment for this particular exercise. As I mentioned, there are so many ways you can create an application. And by the way, even with the Visual Studio Code, you can still be able to create desktop applications. You can still be able to create mobile app applications. So the only things you're going to need to do is to be able to provide the extensions that are necessary. Then it's going to give you the environment to be able to run that code. So for example, if I wanted to do a React Native application, I'll simply install Node, install React Native, then I'll use Visual Studio Code to be able to run and develop my code using React Native. Of course, if I wanted to develop it with Android, I can still be able to do that. But those are very complex process. I just want us to have it as to start from a very simplistic perspective, so that you're able to understand how this concept builds upon. But this is a very, very powerful tool that should enable us to be able to do all the work within one single place. This is an example of what we call an IDE, an integrated development environment. You can write your code, you can test your code, you can debug your code all at once without moving from one environment to the other. And you're going to see how that works out. Okay, so that's why you're seeing me take my time to set it up for several things. Okay, now these guys were coming late. Well, I'll excuse you for today. I'll excuse you for today. Filling the form, I'll send you the invitation. So when you want to come late, you come in quietly. Don't disturb the rest. Right. So we already have our environment. So we need to create a project so that you're able to see how that works out. Now who is this again? You see, this is the distraction that I didn't want, so that I'm already in class and people are very busy requesting me to allow them to join. I don't like this idea. Either you come early or you'll accept the in-link so you can join in quietly without disturbing the rest. Anyway, I'll give an exception of that for today. So what you're going to do is we will start our project. So I'm going to create a project probably on Medoso, because you see it tells me I don't have any folders opened yet, so I need to open a folder from which I can be able to now do my pages. Now the application I want to do here is something like let me call it a phone book, a directory. We want to do a directory for Took. So we want to be able to capture details of departments, of schools, of the people working in schools, and contact information for these schools. Maybe we can capture the logos for the school and all that kind of stuff. So maybe we'll just do a simple project just to reinforce how the visual aspect of a project really works. So, or yeah, I think that, or maybe we can do, I think, let's do, instead of phone directory, let's do an online application form where we can be able to accept applications uh, from students who want to join the college. So we can really pick any project so long as it's going to have form of ways of capturing data, ways of processing that data, and of course, when it comes to saving, that's going to be a different story, because that should be another territory altogether. That is server-side programming, and specifically using something like either a web server like PHP or ASP.NET or Ruby on Rails or Python or something like that. but we want to really focus on the front end, what the users are going to see. So we could simulate maybe things like APIs back and forth, but our focus mainly is how things work on the front, not really on the back end or side of things. But nonetheless, I think we can do a telephone directory because it's simple and it's straightforward. We can have a very small database that stores that information for us. That's not our main agenda. The database is not our main agenda, but we might need it for purposes of reinforcing this particular learning. So first and foremost, I'll create a folder for our project. So I'll come here and say open folder. So when I say open folder, I'll just come to my documents over here. Then I'll probably get a folder here. I'll call it visual programming, and I'll call it directory. So visual programming directory here, I'll double click on it, then I'll open it. So once I open it, you'll see it has nothing, just the name of the directory with totally nothing at all. So from here, I can close the welcome page. So I can also close this chat window. So I'll remain with something like this. So there's a lot going on here, but we are going to get to that in a short while. Okay, so I'm not seeing live server. I don't know where okay, it's come. I was wondering where it had gone to, because once installed as an extension, it should always be there to allow us to be able to view what's going on. So for today, I'm going to start us off with HTML, and we will probably see how HTML works. So what is HTML? Well, what is HTML? HTML is an abbreviation. It means hypertext markup language. So it's a markup language. It's not a programming language. It's markup. Basically, it means that it has what we call tags, which can be able to be used to display things on our browser. All right. So, for example, if I want to display a place where somebody can type, I'll say I'm putting an input. If I want to give a list of things, I'll use ordered list. If I want to put in an image, I'll use an image tag. If I want to put in a button, I'll use a button tag, and so forth and so forth. So mostly we're going to use HTML, and our focus is going to be on forms, because we are interested in creating visual applications. So forms are going to be our main focus on how to create these forms. Now, as I had mentioned before, HTML is for what we call it is for publishing purposes, which means it tells the browser how to render certain things. But while it is doing that, sometimes it's very ugly, and we might want to add something to it that makes it a little bit more colorful. And that's where now CSS comes in. So CSS means cascaded style sheets. And these ones are used for adding color or for formatting our HTML. Now we could write raw CSS. It's possible, and actually that's what is recommended, especially if you want to customize your application as much as possible. But sometimes this takes a lot of time. So we have libraries that allow us to be able to style the CSS. We have something called Bootstrap, is an example. We have Material UI, and so many others. So there are a lot of libraries you can be able to use to be able to style your pages without necessarily writing the name. So we also have Tailwinds, very popular. So you can use any of these libraries to style your files properly, and that's the beauty of now web programming as a visual programming tool. So there's some work that has been already done by other people, so you might not really focus so much on the nitty gritties of how to get some certain things done. I heard there's some people who are waiting at the lounge. Let me just allow them in. Okay, they're already in. Okay. So, as I was mentioning, what's going to be important for us will be HTML, and we are going to use a library called Bootstrap to style them up to make our to speed up how we can be able to style that form. So as part of our development tools, let's include here Bootstrap. 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 Strap. So I'm going to use version 4.6. The most recent version I think is version 6, but I like being a little bit backward for purposes of stability and not breaking our application. So I'll use 4.6. You can use 6 if you want. It's not a big deal, though some of the tags might not be the same. We could have changed a bit of the tags from one version to another, from one major version to another. Like, for example, from version 4 to version 5, maybe a few tags might have changed, some might have been dropped, new ones might have been introduced, and so forth and so forth. Then we might also need icons. Because as you can see, if you look at any web application, like here, we have a lot of icons. This is an icon, this is an icon, this is an icon, this is an icon. So we have a lot of icons all over the place. So even this ad is an icon. This somebody with a plus is an icon. This search here is an icon. This X here is an icon. So when these all these items here, these speaker, these are all icons. So as we are designing our user interface, we might not run away from icons, and that's where now this comes into play. So for icons, you can use Bootstrap icons. It has icons, but I like using Font Awesome icons. I'm a fan of Fontawesome icons because there are too many. They come in different forms and shapes. We have the thin ones, the thick ones, the multicolored ones, and so forth and so forth. Whereas when we are talking about Bootstrap icons, they only come in one shape. So I'm going to show us what they look like in a short while. So then let's jump back to our browser and open Google Chrome here and specifically come here and say we're looking for Bootstrap. So if you say Bootstrap, you're going to go to bootstrap.com here. The most popular HTML, CSS, and JavaScript library in the world, as you can see. Um, the most recent version is 5, not 6, but I like using version 4. So I'll concentrate on version 4 here, 4.6. I think that's what I mentioned. We don't use yes. Version 4.6 is what I love. Version 5 is there. You can use it if you like, but I like version 4.6. So the only thing you need to do is to just come here and say, I want to download it. Of course, they're going to give you two files to download. So you're going to download, when you click on this download here, they are going to download Bootstrap for you. What I need is basically just two things. I need the CSS file for the Bootstrap and the JavaScript file for the Bootstrap. So you're going to download a lot of things. So when I open this folder, you will see there is a lot of things. You don't need all these things. So inside JavaScript here, I only need one file, which is the two maybe, which is the minified version and the map version. Those two are the ones that I need. Now these are important because I don't need to modify Bootstrap as I go along with my coding. So I just use the classes as they are. So the minified version would work for me just fine. But of course, if I wanted to follow up the the details, I'll pick this Bootstrap. If I open this file directly, you're going to see exactly how the code has been written. So sometimes it's not important unless you really want to debug it. It could be overwhelming. This is pure JavaScript written to be able to allow you to do certain things, scroll to the top, scroll to the bottom, hide things, show things, do some animation, validate form, and all that kind of stuff. So all of it is already written for you inside here. As I've mentioned, you might not necessarily need to read this to see how it works out, but of course, we just include and run it as part of our library. So we only need to access only the features that we need. And that's why I don't necessarily need to download and I need to get the full version, but the minified version. The minified version is much, much smaller. As you can see, this is 135 kilobytes. This is just half of the file size. Okay, so it's small enough so that now when you're loading it, it's much much faster. That's why the minified version is okay. So we'll need the JavaScript files and we will need the CSS files. So for the CSS file, I'll need the bootstrap.minified, bootstrap.min, this one, and it's then of course the CSS file. So that's basically all we need. So once you install Bootstrap, I can go back to I can add here a folder. Then I go to where I've I've put my file, so it was documents, and I'll go by date modified. I should be able to get the folder. We called it Visual Programming VP, so you can just say VP here. Then inside here, we're going to create a folder for JavaScript. So new here, folder for JavaScript, we just call it JS. We need to create a folder for CSS for our styling. And we also need a folder for images in the event that you're going to use images. And if you're going to use any other plugins, then you can provide that. But these three are what's important. So as I've mentioned, on the Bootstrap, I'll pick the CSS files from Bootstrap, these two, I'll copy. Then I'll put them inside my CSS folder, like that. Then I'll come back and I'll go back to my Bootstrap. Then I'll go to JavaScript. Then I'll also pick the JavaScript files, which is the min and the map. Only those two that I need, copy. Then I'll come and go to my JavaScript and paste them there. Images here, we can put our the logo of our application and any other images that we want to use as assets as far as our project is concerned. So basically, that is the setup that we need, and we are good to go. So I'll go back to Visual Studio Code, and as you can see now, I have CSS with Bootstrap and its map. Then I have JS with Bootstrap. So I've only installed Bootstrap. I've not installed anything else. So let's create our sign-in page first of all. So we want to create a sign-in page where we have um, now a place where we are putting in a username and a password and a button for signing in and a checkbox for when somebody forgets their password or something of the sort. So after that, we can also create a registration form where now we capture details of the person who is registering for purposes of using our application. So that is basically the general idea of why we're getting started as far as HTML is concerned. Remember, I said our focus is going to be on forms, But as we are moving along, we can also use other things like paragraphs and ordered lists and anchor elements and so forth and so forth. But just bear with me. I'll try my level best to make sure that we benefit the most, even though we might not have learned HTML before. So what I'm going to do here is I'll click on this area so that this blue place is highlighted. So it means I've not highlighted any directory. Then I'll come here and click add file, new file here. Then I'll say this is index.html. Index means that's where we are starting. So if I deploy this application, what the browser will look for, or the web server will look for, is something that has a name, something like index.html, index.php, something index.htm, something like that. So that's why I'm labeling my homepage that. Now, usually HTML is made up of what we call elements, and we have two types of elements. We have tags rather. We have two types of tags. We have open tags and we have closed tags. But a majority of HTML tags are closed tags. So usually when you're starting HTML, we usually start with the HTML keyword like that. When I type that, now Emmet is enabled inside Visual Studio Code, so you can see automatically it closes for me the HTML. So this is the opening tag, this is the closing tag. So most of the HTML tags are going to be in that kind of a pair. So open and closing pairs. But of course, usually everything is inside opening and closing tag. Now HTML has three parts. It has what we call the head, like that. Then it has the body, like that. So most of the content is going to go inside. But so you can see Emmet is already built in. So it's intelligent enough as I'm starting to type, it knows what I need to do. Now on the head here, we have also quite a number of things. Like we have title, which is going to be the title of our page. So I'll simply say here, welcome to our welcome to Took directory. welcome to Took directory. So now this one allows me to be able to have an HTML this is a HTML document. There is a head of the document. Part of that head I've put title. There is more than just the head. There is the title, there's the meta tag, and the links. If I need to link any files, like for example, since I'm going to use Bootstrap, I can actually link Bootstrap from the head here. So we're going to do that in a short while. I just want to explain how the structure of this document looks like. So there's the HTML, which tells us this is the HTML document. The HTML document is made up of three parts. There's the head, the body, and there's also a footer if you need to. It's not a must, but you can have it. So we have head, which is what goes on the head, body, which goes into the main part of the page. Then we have footer, which goes to the bottom of the page. Footer is optional, but head and body are not. Those ones must be provided. So if I was to run this application, so this is where now live server comes in very, very handy, and you're going to see how that happens moving forward. So if once I'm on this document and I click on go live, you can see it's going to start. Then it's going to open a browser window with my page here. My page doesn't have anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going back to come back to my code. I want to see them side by side so that when I am making changes, I'm also seeing what's happening on the page. So I'll bring my cursor here, then I'll say I want to see the Visual Studio Code and Google Chrome side by side, this first option here. So it will place them for me side by side. So this is my code window. This is my output. So as I am typing, I'm going to be able to see what is actually happening on the outside here. So I'll close that up. This one basically just opens the file explorer, so I can close it up because at a given point I'll be working on only one file. I'll be writing code on one file or maybe two, and they could be opened up here. So this is one tab. I could have additional tabs here. So for example, if I had opened also this JavaScript file here, so you can see now I have two of them. So I can switch between this file and this file. So as I'm working on them, I can go back and forth, so I can be able to see what I'm working with. So the IDE is very, very nicely organized and makes it very, very easy for you to work with the things that you want to work with. Now, what's important here is what I've placed here is the title, and you can see this title is actually showing here, Welcome to Took Directory. So that's the title that I provided here. So whatever title you provide here is what's going to appear on your page. So here, I can simply come and say, Hello World. So I can put a paragraph and say, Hello World. Now, you will see that this automatically updates on my browser as I change. So there are two settings that I've made. First and foremost, I came to Visual Studio Code over here on the menu. Then from the menu, I said on the file, I said autosave. Okay. So on the menu, when I went to file and I said autosave, it means that as I'm typing my code, it automatically saves. And as it automatically saves, this live server will update my browser as I go along. So I can come here and start typing again. Welcome to Took. So you see, as I type that, it also comes here. So I don't need to refresh back and forth, and so forth and so forth. And this is where now it makes it very, very easy for me to write the code and see the output that is actually coming out. So body is this part here where all our content is going to go to. Okay, now of course I don't need to have that. I was just demonstrating that for purposes of showing us where our content goes to. So one thing I need to do is I need to include Bootstrap as part of my CSS file. So I want to include Bootstrap so that now I can be able to use the Bootstrap styles rather than typing my own. So here I'll come and put link, and I'll say the link is CSS like that. Then as you can see, I have a folder called CSS, and inside CSS, I have bootstrap.min.css. So what I'm going to do is here, the hyperlink reference, I'll say, go into a folder called CSS. Inside that CSS folder, get bootstrap.min.css. That will integrate Bootstrap inside my file here, so I can comfortably use it. And I want you to observe how that's going to work out. So let's say, for example, Bootstrap has what we call a container, and a container can be fluid. So maybe let me say I have a div with a class of container. So this is now Emmet. Emmet allows me to be able to type my code faster because I have an element. An element has properties and it has classes. right? And maybe it has other attributes. So as I'm typing all these components, I can use Emmet to be able to get them right for me. Previously, what we used to do is I would have to create a div here. I'll have to give it a class of container. Then I say it can be container fluid. Then maybe I'll I think this is not necessary. There, container, and that's wrongly spelled. It should be container. Container. What's happening with me today? Container. Yeah. So container like that. Then maybe I can give it a background of blue. Well, it's supposed to be info. Then I've not closed the div. I should have seen a container here of uh, it's not background, but it should be, yeah, it should be, no, it should be background. It should be maybe say alert. Um, this one has picked, yeah. Okay, maybe that's not a very good example, but let me create a card here. Let me initially what I would need to do is to create a div, give it a class of card like that. Then create another div, give it a class of card header. I want to show you how Emmet works. So then inside the card header, I needed maybe something like a h5. Then I'll say maybe uh, uh, login details like that. So you can see it's starting to come out. I don't know why it's not refreshed properly, but it should have refreshed properly. Login details like that. Then here I have the card body. I have another div with a class of card body. Then inside here now I can put the details of my card. So maybe I can say here I have maybe an input of type text. Then maybe it has an ID of username. Then I close it. So you can see that's a lot of typing, right? If you were to follow the conventional way of typing code, that is what I will be doing over and over again. That is a very, very difficult job if you ask me. So Emmet allows me to actually do that very simply. So what I'm going to do is something like this, and I'm going to give you the cheat sheet, which you can now be able to read to see how you can be able to work with Emmet directly. So what I need to do, so any most of the things in our HTML files are considered as div. So Emmet will also think of things as div by default. So if I wanted to create a card, I'll simply say dot card. Then inside the card, so that means sibling. So inside the card, I want to create a card header, and this I'll be typing the code. Inside the card header, I want to put h4, and I want to say login details. So here h4, then I'll put brackets like that. Then I say login details, right? So once I'm done with that, the other thing I'll need to do is I'll jump because I'm inside h4. I want to be at the same level as header so that I create the body. So I'll put this mark over there, the power sign. Then I'll say create another one with card body like that. Now I want you to observe what happens when I press enter. When I press enter, you can see it has automatically created the structure for me in terms of it has created a div with a class of card, and inside the div, it has created a card header. Inside the card header, it has created card details. Of course, I I needed to move outside one bit, so what I ought to have done was to say here um, plus card body. So jump up, then card body. So you can see now it has actually placed me in the right position. So card header and card body are at the same level. So I don't necessarily need to type my code end to end. I can just be able to type the short emit codes and it is able to fill in the rest of the data for me. Okay, so card header is there. Now you can see this card header doesn't look nice. It is touching that. So that's why I was saying I can create here a div with a container. Then I make the container fluid, which means it does not cover the whole screen. Then all these things would go inside here like that. So you can see it has moved. It has left some spaces left and right, but I also need to have some margin at the top. So here I can come and say, you can align the Bootstrap classes, margin top, maybe give it 3. So you can see it has pushed it downwards. Now this is too big, so maybe I can give it H5. But of course I can also customize the font size, something like that. So you can see now I have a way of login details. Then now I can be able to provide my login details below here. So inside the card body here, I want to have a label and a field for username, password, and button for logging in. So here I'll come again, give me a form group. Form group means I'm giving a label and something on the label to, like an input field, because we said forms are our concern. So when I say form group, forms comes in different types of elements. We have different inputs altogether. So maybe we can learn about the form inputs. For now, I'm only focused on showing us exactly how to structure it. Then we're going to look at the form inputs one by one so that you understand what they do. So for form group, you have a label. The label will ask you what is the label for. I'll simply say this is for a field called username, right? So then I'll put here username. So you're going to see there's a label here called username. The next to that username, I'll put an input of type text. Then I'll give it some classes. I'll give it some classes text. Then I'll give it an ID is username. Hash means ID. Then dot means class name. So this is form control. Then I want another class called form control small, because I don't want them to be too big. Otherwise, if I left them there, they're going to be too big. So once I do that and I press enter, you can see now it has given me somewhere I can type my username. Pretty neat, right? So username, somewhere to type username. Then I can come again and say form group, label, password, password. Then I'm going to give an input. So we have an input of type password. Then it's going to be a password field. Then we're going to add two classes, form control, small. So now doing that, now I have a field called password here. So you can see here I can type admin, and here I can type my password, and so somebody cannot be able to see that, right? So you can see Bootstrap, this is actually an input type. This is not Bootstrap. Bootstrap is only formatting it using these two. So it's making it a form control and making it a form control small, which means it's not too big on the screen or something like that. But this other portion is pure HTML. The other portion here, this is pure HTML, an input of type password with the name should be the same as the ID. Usually, I use the same name and the same ID because when you're publishing the forms, it pushes the name. But when you want to do validation, we use the ID. So I usually give them the two of them. So I have now a login form. Then at the bottom, I want now to give them a checkbox to say whether they have forgotten their password or not. So maybe I can give an anchor, and this anchor I'll point to maybe say somewhere else. For now, it's not going anywhere. Then I can simply say here, forgot password. So if somebody forgets their password, they're going to click on this. It's going to open for them a form where they have where they can reset their password. Right now, before they forget their password, we might want them to remember. Or we might want to remember the user. So I can put here an input of type checkbox. Then this one, you can see an input of type export is there. I need to give it a label. So maybe what I ought to have done is to say form group, then sorry, dot form group. If you don't put dot, it's going to assume that's a tag. So dot form group, then you go all the way to the end. Then you give a label, and on this label you can say remember me. So remember me. So I have that label remember me. Remember me is wrongly spelled. Then inside this remember me, I can go ahead and now put an input of type checkbox. Input, sorry, what am I doing? So I now have an input of type checkbox with the name of remember me. So you can see there it has remember me, so I can tick it to be remembered. And that's pretty awesome. So also this one is remember me, like that. Well, usually we can put the remember me just before the label. I think it looks nicer that way. The label comes downwards like that. So you can see now I have username, password, remember me, forgot password. Then I can have a button down here of logging in. So after I have all these things, after that, I can simply put here a button with a class of btn, btn small, btn success because I want it to be green in color. Then I can say login. You can type this by hand. You can type this by hand, but I don't like typing it by hand. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create here another div called with an ID of buttons. So here I can put now my buttons. Now the good thing with Bootstrap, because they're too close together, I can give this here a class and say the margin top for that div is 3. So I wanted to push it downwards. Class with double S. So you can see it has been pushed in. So login or sign in. Sign in. So you can see I have sign in button over there. Now if I wanted this sign in button to cover the whole screen, I'll simply give it here a width of 100. So it is big, so it's covering the screen like that, so end to end. So if it's on a mobile device, it's that big. If it's going to be on on the other bigger screen, well, the button is going to be too big for no apparent reason. So this might only be good if you are working on a mobile device. So you can see I have actually created what we call a login user interface. I have created a user interface that you can actually interact with and now allow your users to be able to sign in into your application. And you can see the code isn't much. This is the entire code that makes it up. If you were to do an Android application for this would have been really, really messy. There would be a lot of code back and forth just to get this user interface at this point that we have gotten it into. Any question up to that point as I plug in my device? You can go ahead and ask. Any question? You can use the chat to ask. Um, we did not. Bethel, what do you mean by we did not? Or you didn't? Or you meant you did not do HTML? I think I was asking if you have done HTML and you're responding. Okay, I think that's clear. Any question up to this point? Now you start to see the visual aspect on how some of these things work out. Now, this is important because when you're creating these visual elements, we also want to suddenly make our user interface interactive. We want to make our user interface look very, very beautiful. And at the same time, we want it to make it functional. So I have not used any icons here as yet. So that's where I wanted to drive us next. Um, Somebody's asking, are they not going to be part of the YouTube tutorials? Yes. I'm going to. This video is being recorded in real time, so everything that is showing on my screen will show up on that YouTube video, so you can be able to follow it up from there in case you need to have that. I'll also create GitHub repository where I'll be sharing this code as I type it from day to day, so you can be able to have both the code and the video for purposes of your review in the event that you want to see exactly what I have typed. So yes, that's going to be available, Amon. Okay. Right. So we have done a bit of things, and mostly whatever we're doing here is setup and just showing you how we use this setup for different things. So the only thing I've not done here is to use icons. And icons are very important. As I've shown you, if you go into any applications, they are going to be icons left, right, and center. So you can see our application doesn't have any, and I want to introduce those icons. Now, I said when you want to use icons, there are so many options you can use. You can use Bootstrap icons. They are free, and most of the icons are free. So you can actually go online, go to Bootstrap. Then when you come to icons here, such uh, I want version 4.6. Uh, no, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Bootstrap icons. They are not they're not tied to any version of Bootstrap. So I have Bootstrap icons over here. So from icons, I can come here and you can see there is Fontawesome, which is another alternative. With this, actually, what I prefer to use. We also have box icons. It's also another very nice library to use. So again, it will depend on what you want to use the icons for. So when it comes to Bootstrap icons over here, let me just open this one as full screen. Then you can come here and now have these icons. Um, where? Okay, I have icons here. This is what I was looking for. So based on these icons, you can see these are the icons that are there. There are so many. So maybe if I want an aeroplane, I can say here. You can see even my screen is struggling to catch up because the icons are too many. The page is too large. So if I wanted, hey, what's going on with my device today? I think it's somewhat failing to respond. I don't know why that is the case, but yeah, the recording is going on okay. I think sometimes my machine is almost filled in, so it becomes a bit of a challenge to navigate. So we have these icons here. So I can come here and say I want aeroplane. So I'll have icons for aeroplane. I can say I want an icon for users. I'll have icons for users. Like you can see this user plus, this maximize user, this user with this download user. So all these icons are based on user. I can have icon based on I want file. So it will depend on really delete. So all these are icons for delete, right? So you can see there's quite a lot of icons that you can use. And when you click on an icon like that, you'll be told exactly how to use it inside your code. So this is generally how we use these icons. So you can download this icon pack. As I said, I prefer another library called Fontawesome. So just go to fontawesome.com. I know they are on version 7 right now, but I still love version 5 icons. So you can see the icons look pretty good. Now, the only disclaimer here is that not all the icons are free. So you can use the free icons, or you can just go ahead and buy the icons if you need to. So what I'm going to do is I want to use it on websites. So I can add it on websites over here. Then from here, I can just come back and say I want to download Font Awesome. Uh, Download Font Awesome. Where is it? There should be a download file icon here. There should be a download. Okay, that's docs. I think I need to go to Font Awesome. Then I say download here. Then I want to download version 5. You can download version 7 if you want. Then I'll say free for web here. So that way, it will allow me to download the Font Awesome icons. You can see it's not very big. Now I'm showing us how to do this because moving forward, once we incorporate all these things into our package, the rest of the things is just going to be continually developing our UI and also just going ahead and creating these interfaces as we move along. So let it finish so that I can show us how to actually use them, okay, inside our project without referring to them online. By the way, you can use a CDN for this. You can just point to the Font Awesome website and it will be able to point you to the icons. You don't need to install them on your device. But that means that every time you're developing, you have to be online, which might not be very, very practical. So that's why sometimes I prefer that you download the assets on your computer, then you can be able to use it offline. So I'll open this folder where Font Awesome has been downloaded to. Then I will come here and I will extract. I'll extract all. Then I'll say, just say Font Awesome icons, extract. So it will extract them in that folder called FA icons, and of course it will open it once it's done because I've told it to do that. So let's give it the 30 seconds it requires for that extract. Usually these things happen very, very fast, so they're not really a big deal in terms of setting them up. So it's almost done here. It's done. So once this folder opens, you only need two things from this folder. I'll need the web fonts. This one. I need this folder called web fonts. So I'll copy this web fonts folder and copy it to the root of where my project is. So my project is VP directory here. So I will copy it in the root of my project here, just where the index is or where the root of the folder. So I'll paste those the web fonts. So once I copy that web fonts, I'll come back to the downloads folder. Then I'll open the CSS file. Then I'll pick the all.css. So you'll see this all.css. You can pick either all.css.min or all.css. Either would be able to work. Now, there's no significant file change in terms of the file from the minified one to the regular one. So I'll just pick the regular one, this one. So I'll copy this all.css file. I'll copy this, then I'll paste it inside my CSS folder. So I'll come inside my CSS folder here and paste it in like that. And that is all I need to install Font Awesome icons locally inside my local development environment. Now, the only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come back to my Visual Studio Code. Of course, I need to bring back my browser window so they are side by side. I do this and make them side by side like that. Then I can come back to my design. So I like having them side by side like that so that now what I'm designing and the output, I'm able to see all of them and correct where necessary. All right. So to include Font Awesome, since it's a style sheet, I'll just link it as I had linked Bootstrap above. So I'll say here link CSS. Then it's inside the CSS folder. Then inside the CSS folder, I have all.css, as you can see. Now that automatically links me with Font Awesome, and I can now use Font Awesome for signing in, for username, for password, and so forth and so forth. So let's add a button here for signing in. So signing in, I can come here and I can say version 5. I can come to say icons here, icons. Then I can just search sign in. Sign in. So sign in, I can press enter, but then I can also specify which version I want. I don't want version 7, I want version 5 because that's what I'm used to. My machine is a bit sluggish today. So sign in for version 5. So now you can only use the ones that are not written Pro. You can only use the ones that are not written Pro. So if you are going to use icons, the Pro ones cannot be used because you need to have a license for that. So only the ones that are uh, uh, that are that are open you can use. So you can see most of them, if I say open, most of them don't have a lock. So I can use this lock open. So in this icon, just before I put the word sign in, let me put them on a new line so that you see how it works out. But it doesn't matter how you type it. So I'll just before the sign icon, I'll click on this open lock. But the name is actually this lock open. So you can see it is fast far lock open. So I can actually copy this code snippet. It's copied. Then I come and paste it inside here. Well, I'll just bring us back to this folder, this file of ours. Then I paste that. I want you to observe what happens. So when I paste that, you see automatically I have that icon added to my sign in button over there. Isn't that good? Now that makes it very, very easy because I can have here that maybe this one does not look very good. Let me open maybe a user. There are so many icons for users. So I can say something like this user lock or this user check. So you can see all of them are not, so I can use user lock so far. So the only thing you need to change here is this. The name has to correspond to what is here. This is saying user lock. So I'll simply say here user hyphen lock, something of that sort. And now, um, look like I've misspelled it. User lock. User lock is here. Let me see. Is it fast or is actually fast for user lock? So this is it. I think fast for user lock. Yeah, that should have actually worked out. I don't know what I missed. Yeah, there's something I must have missed, but that's basically it. So you can see we can be able to add as many icons as possible. So let's add an icon here for user and icon here for password. So this will be a user, this will be padlock. So user is just for user. So I can pick this. Actually, you can just type it by hand. So just before this label, on this label, I'll simply say add an icon with a class of font awesome solid with a class of font awesome user like that. That should allow you to be able to add the icon. As you can see, uh, first for user. Yeah, that should have worked out. Why is it not working today? Let me check. Regular just users icon, user, it's here, yeah. It is fast for user. Yeah, why is it me who's typing it wrongly? That's correct. It's appearing. I don't know. I actually more or less typed the correct thing. I don't know why it's not appearing. Okay, I know there's one called padlock or lock. So let's see how lock looks like. So as you continue to use these icons, you just get to know how their names work like. So I can use this locker, this for locker. So I can come here and say for password here is an icon with a class of Fontawesome solid, Fontawesome lock. Ideally, that's how I type them and they usually work out. I don't know why today they are not. Yeah, it's actually working. So you can see now I have username, I have password, then I have sign in. And you can see now the good thing with these ones is that I can change the colors if I wanted to. So if I wanted this one to be blue and this one to be red, I can simply say here text primary. That will make it blue, as you can see. Then if I want this one to be red, I'll say text danger, and that will make it red. So you can see, so I can actually make my form very, very colorful as I move along. So this is very powerful in terms of us creating our user interface. So we have captured a lot of things. We have looked at how we can do styling using Font Awesome. We have seen how we can use iconography using, styling using Bootstrap, then adding iconography or icons using Font Awesome. Then we have also seen how we can use HTML to create forms, and of course now how to coordinate the forms so that it makes sense for the user, and how to run the form in real time. So as we're doing the design, we can also be able to see the output of what we're doing in real time. So our design versus the output, we can be able to see directly, and we can be able to correct things as we move along very, very fast. This is very powerful, and this is actually how we are going to be designing these user interfaces for purposes of our visual programming moving forward. So HTML is purely for publishing purposes. So as you can see, there is nothing that has been done on this form with the exception of just creating it. So it cannot be able to log in the user, it cannot be able to do validation, it cannot be able to check if the forms are blank or things like that. That is where JavaScript is going to come in. But for now, or for the first few classes, I want us to focus on how we can actually design the user interfaces prior to now going to how to write the code to make the application functional. Okay? Is that clear up to that point? I'll maximize this so that it can grab the screen on what the code looks like. That's the entire code that I have written today. So if you were to replicate it in your environment, that is how it should actually look like. Okay. And of course, you've seen what the output looks like. This is how the output looks like. Okay. So I think I will take a break at that. I will make this available the video available through your class rep. Then you can follow it up and let me know if there is any challenge that you're facing. But I want to believe this should be a bit straightforward. Now, in the next class, I'll start looking at HTML plainly without necessarily going deep into Bootstrap and all that. Just look at plain HTML and how we can work with HTML plainly. Here, I was just trying to show us how we can be able to put everything together to come up with a nice user interface. But of course, understanding HTML and how everything works with HTML is very, very important. So I'll also be able to provide us with that. Or alternatively, I can give you videos from the previous classes that we had used for capturing that. Then you can also look at them for your any purposes, for your review purposes. Just look at the HTML part. Then now, once you are comfortable with the HTML part, you can come back and we can be able to continue with our UI design after understanding those particular principles. Is that okay? So I don't know what you prefer, if I provide you with videos that I had recorded previously on the same, or if I just take you through one by one. Some people like being taken through one by one. They tend to they believe that they understand it better that way. Some people can look at the previous work that had been done. It's all at your discretion. So you let me know how that works out. All right. Any question or comment? You can raise your hand. You can use the chat. I like it when people ask questions. It means that they were paying attention. Eh? Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands raised. Neither am I seeing any microphone on, and neither am I seeing anything on the chat. So I want to believe that there are no questions at this point. So I think I'll end the class at that point. As I'd mentioned, I will share the video recording. I'll create a playlist for you. So all the classes that we have are going to be on that playlist. To make your work easier, just sign up to that channel. Every time I upload something on your class list, you don't need the class rep to share it with you. You can just be able to access it directly. But that will only happen if you are subscribed. Otherwise, you'll have to wait for your class rep to share the link. Then you can click on that link to be able to review that content. Okay, so it will be how you want to go about it. Either way, my interest is that you have access to the content and you can be able to review it at your discretion or pleasure. Okay, thank you and have a wonderful morning. We'll catch up again on Monday. I don't know when is the class on Monday. Class rep, I want to believe is here. The Monday class is at what time?
Let me confirm.
Okay, just confirm and let me know on WhatsApp. In the meantime, you guys have a wonderful day, right? Okay.